All right, we're taping this on a Sunday afternoon. We're in Utah. I am here with Chris Ryan. We're doing some stuff for Sundance, and unexpectedly and tragically, this is the saddest NBA day ever. Kobe Bryant passed away, helicopter crash. Saw the parentheses when you watch the TV, and it says the Kobe Bryant 1978 to 2020. It's just like, what the hell is going on? I can't, other than Magic getting HIV, I can't remember being this shocked by anything that happened in sports. And obviously, this is worse because Kobe passed away. But Chris, where do we even start?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I'm like sick to my stomach over this. It's somebody that I was just texting with Andy Greenwald, who I do the pod with, and he actually put it best. He's like, we saw his entire life. Like he is the definitive player of like my adult life. I watched him from right when I graduated high school till right when I moved to Los Angeles, and it's even before his NBA career, you had an awareness of him coming into the league. He felt like this kind of like prodigal figure, and it's just it's hard to make sense of. It's hard to make sense of the loss of life. It's just such a tragic incident with his daughter and with his daughter's teammate and their parent on the helicopter. It's so awful.
I had the same thought about. I feel like we've known him. Probably started hearing about him when he was maybe a junior in high school.
Yeah.
And his entire career spanned basically the entire internet and how it intersected with basketball in all these different ways. But you think like he joins the league in 96. That's right when most people have an email.
Yeah.
And then hits all these checkpoints that he's a part of. You're talking about early internet, then you're talking about early days of ESPN.com and all those sites, and then YouTube in 2006, and then Twitter comes and Instagram, and he's there every step of the way and becomes the defining guy of his generation and one of the top 10 players of all time. And I think, obviously I have a 14-year-old daughter, and that part really hits home the hardest for me is with his 13-year-old daughter that he was close to and was at games and all that stuff. But I was really interested to see what was going to happen the next 40 years of his life.
I gotta say, like last night, I hope this doesn't sound inappropriate, but last night a bunch of us were out for dinner, and the Sixers and the Lakers had played earlier, and we were at this bar, and Sports Center come on, and I was like, okay, they're gonna show the Sixers Lakers highlight package, and instead they led with a package of LeBron passing Kobe,
Yeah,
and I was like, I can't believe this guy at 42 is still making me mad
right.
because somehow he's like blocking the Sixers or whatever from their moment in the spotlight. But that was the thing about Kobe. He engaged you on an emotional level the way like very few athletes do. You can respect athletes, you can fear athletes, you can hate athletes. Kobe had the ability to trigger all of those emotions in me. Like I loathed him, I respected him, I loved him, I hated him. It's like that kind of thing is just such a rare quality, not only in athletes, but in any kind of public figure.
And I think as we look at wherever his life was going to go, and now we'll never know, but he had this ability to stick around and stay relevant when he wasn't playing. That is a really hard thing to do because it's not like he was on NBA Countdown or on the Inside the NBA show or stuff like that. He really was determined to forge his own way. And even the TV thing that he did, what was it called? Detail on ESPN Plus.
Yeah.
Because he didn't want to do a typical studio show.
Right.
He wanted to do this whole thing that he conceived himself. And, he just didn't want to do it conventionally. He was starting. It seems like he was flying to the Mamba Academy, this academy he started in Thousand Oaks, but he was doing all of this stuff, right? He's making content. He's making children's podcasts. And I just thought it was really interesting. I didn't necessarily think all of it was working in the best way, but all of it was fascinating and kind of cool that he was doing it. And I don't know. It feels like a crater.
His was watching him over the course of the last 20 some odd years. It was really you felt like you were watching somebody who was very aware of the story that they were writing. Like he was a post Jordan player, and he was playing in a world where he was like, I have to be better than this guy, or everything I do has to match what this guy did. And that's really what we want from our public figures and our athletes, is to like have this sense of historical significance and context. Like they are telling the next chapter of a story. And yeah, you're right. Like we definitely had some laughs at the expense of the detail, like for sure. But he always was, he really always marched to the beat of his own drum. Like he always did what he wanted to do. And he was never kind of ashamed of who he was and the kinds of things that were in his head. I mean, everything from the way he would kind of like be pretty open about the fact that he spoke several languages, or the way that he would dress the way he dressed, or the way he talked or the way he thought about the game in ways that were like almost corny, you know, like don't take it so seriously, dude. You know, I think that often rubbed people the wrong way. And it was a really single-minded pursuit of excellence. And it was interesting because like in the last couple of years, it felt like all that competitive energy and all this stuff that he put into being the best basketball player he could possibly be and being the greatest champion he could possibly be was getting dispersed. It was going to all these different directions. And I think that one of the most touching things was it was obviously he was putting a lot of energy and thoughtfulness and care and attention into being a father, which was really, as a public figure, was pretty moving.
He started to think about his impact and his legacy. I feel like when they got Gasol and they were trying to make the finals and you know, he was able to make the finals 3 years in a row. He wins 2 titles. And it seemed like around 2010, 11-ish, he started to give more of himself out there and to try to change the narrative of what his career was and to reach out to other people who had influence, whether it was reporters or columnists or people on TV. And he became much more accessible. I remember I don't even know if I ever told the story. I wrote this piece about leadership and Bill Russell, I think, when I was on Countdown. So I'm going to say it's like the 2012-13 season.
To Grantland era, yeah.
Do you know the story? Did I ever tell you the story?
I don't know.
And I got this text on a Friday night. And it was like, hey, it's Kobe. I want to talk. And I'm like, haha, bullshit.
Right.
And
this is Jacoby or something.
Yeah, I was like, stop. It was some number I didn't recognize. And I was like, yeah, how do I know you're Kobe? And he's like, and he had some response. I don't remember exactly what it was, but it was something like, of course it's me, you Boston dickhead or something. Call me. And my wife and I were about to go to, I think something like Christmas party or Valentine's Day party or something. And he called and he wanted to talk about leadership because he was obsessed with it. And he had been reading all these different books and he was really interested in Bill Russell. And we ended up talking for like 25, 30 minutes about it. And I had never talked to him in my life until that point. And he had all these thoughts about the guys of the younger guys, like the KD Westbrook generation, things like that. And we had a good talk. And then a couple weeks later, I texted him and I was like, hey, I want to write about our conversation because I really think people would think it's interesting. And he was like, no, that was off the record. You'll never write about that. And I was like, okay, that was it. I respected it. But I think he was one of those guys. He was in constant search of information, philosophy. He talked to all types of people from all types of not just sports, but business. And he was one of the first athletes who really dove into the whole business side and talked to all types of people, all types of thinkers. And he was just a really curious guy.
Yeah.
And I think that'll come out over these next few days is the amount of people that he knew and talked to and kind of tried to get information from.
Yeah. It's interesting because like we're recording this right now and we're not in LA, but I can see from my Twitter feed and just texting with people, like, you know, this is going to be a pretty significant loss for the Los Angeles community. I mean, I don't think I understood that even as a Philadelphian. Like I didn't really understand Kobe's kind of iconic status the way that I think I will now. And I mean, I obviously have since I moved to Los Angeles, but you can't really understate that
well, you can't describe it to the people listening who I felt the same way. I moved there in 2002.
And I was like,
he was so beloved. I'd never seen anything like it. In some ways,
he's bigger than the Lakers. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like there are people who are Kobe fans, not Lakers fans.
Well, and I think after he had the Colorado thing and nationally became villainized in some ways. And I think it definitely turned into an us versus them thing with the Laker fans. And he was their guy from that point on where it was like, no, this is our guy. We're not giving up on this one. And then as his career started to turn, they loved him the most. And, you know, the Kobe versus Magic thing, I wasn't here when Magic played. And I think they love Magic the same way as a player. The Kobe thing resonated it felt like a more profound way.
Yeah, I mean, he was like a messiah to them. You know what I mean? Because
He really was.
I think he was someone that, for the first time since Magic, and maybe since in the same way I was talking about how Kobe understood greatness in a post-Jordan era, Kobe understood Lakerdom in a post-Magic era. Like, he understood what that could mean to be a Laker and to be a champion Laker. And I think that he was a very fierce protector of those values, you know, sometimes to the detriment of the Lakers themselves, I would imagine, you know, but saw himself as completely intertwined with the Lakers legacy. And it was, you know, it's such a crazy story to think about this kid who, I mean, you would probably remember this better than I was, because I was still in high school, but like the way he basically plots his course to the Lakers instead of the Hornets,
Right.
And the Hornets trading that draft pick for Divac. And if Divac, you know, Divac was like threatening to retire. Remember that? Yeah. Like, in that whole thing. But there's everything you read about Kobe from that time, even though it's not very long ago, it feels like you're watching a Western or reading a comic book, you know, like Kobe destroying Michael Cooper in workouts, or Kobe, you know, being terrible in his first playoffs or whatever. You know, it's just like all these stories that, like, they don't feel like you're like reading about them in like any kind of like contemporary setting. They feel like they're almost like a superhero origin story or something.
That was the first year I had my own website. I think it was his second year, it was his breakout year. And he was just, you know, he's in there, and so's Iverson, and it feels, in Jordan, you can start to see the tail end of his career. And you could feel, all right, there's really something here.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is the next MJ, but all the people who love basketball were like, this might be the guy.
Mm-hmm.
And there were these little checkpoint moments, and he got voted into the All-Star game, and then he got to play MJ in the All-Star game. And I remember there was a Lakers Bulls national game, and it was all about, could this be the successor we were looking for? And, you know, it was up and down the next couple of years, and it really wasn't until Game 4, the 2000 finals against Indiana, Shaq fouls out, Kobe takes over in overtime, and then we were like, yes.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next, you know, 8 years, pretty tumultuous, and they win some titles. He shoots himself out of a title. He has some off-court stuff. And for the kind of basketball that I loved, I was like, I didn't like the direction of the hero ball style.
Mm-hmm.
And I really, you know, I was really protective of the old way of playing. And, you know, he's a Laker, I'm a Celtic fan, all that stuff. So looking for any reason to go glass half empty on whatever we're going with Kobe.
Are we sure he's good?
And it wasn't until after I wrote my book, and then I started doing more media stuff and doing Countdown and just talking to more athletes, I really realized like I needed to really understand basketball more. I want to talk to as many people as possible. I started having people on my podcast, and over again, it was the same thing. His peers and the people that came before him really respected him and really felt like he was one of the best guys. And at some point I just realized like, man, I'm just looking at this one wrong. This is an L for me.
Yeah.
Because everybody who goes against him is like, this is either the best player I've ever played against or one of the best players I've ever played against.
I'll tell you, and you can see it today in the tributes, which are just starting to trickle out really. But one thing in my experience of just since I moved to LA and covering the league a little bit more professionally is like the people who love Kobe the most are other players. And that should tell you something, you know, and not only because I think that, you know, he obviously had his rivalries and his conflicts with other players, but especially for a younger generation of players, I think they looked up to him like a god, you know, and he actually was pretty benevolent with his time and his sort of advice and his, and you know, it, probably in some ways, like in a kind of, you know, like condescending way, like here's what you have to do, young buck.
Oh,
but
yeah.
I think like you see like guys like Trae Young and John Morant, like pretty young dudes, like who are like,
well, those are 2 generations removed now, because like the Durant Westbrook generation were like the sons of Kobe.
Yes.
And he gets to play with them in 08 and 2012 in the Olympics, and is able in 08, he has a profound effect on Wade and LeBron and Bosh and Carmelo. If you go back and you look at all of their stats, I'm doing this off the top of my head, in the 08-09 season, after they play with him in the Olympics, all of them have the best years of their career. Now you could say part of that had to be their they're maturing and they're hitting the point where you're hitting your NBA prime, right? But on the other hand, the stuff they learned from him, they've all talked about it. The work ethic he had, he was just at a whole other level than they were. And I think all of them realized, oh shit.
Yeah. You can only get so far by being good.
Yeah. Oh, so that's what I have to do. So he passed that along. And I think he had the biggest impact on Wade. Yeah. Because Wade had by far the best year of his career the next year. But and then in 2012, same thing. That's a younger team.
That's the London games.
That has LeBron, Durant, Westbrook, Chris Paul, Darren Williams,
Iguodala on that team.
Iguodala, that whole generation, and Kobe at that point, he's climbed the mountain already. He's won 5 titles. He's past his prime. He's settled into this old school gunslinger version of himself, and was just on another level. I don't even think he stayed at the same hotel with those guys because he was like just more famous than everybody.
Yeah,
and he's on a team with LeBron, but he was the guy, and he was the guy. I think it's really important to have the measuring stick guys, especially in the NBA, where it's like you're trying to make it. And LeBron became that guy, right? Kobe passed the torch to LeBron, and now it's like everybody's trying to get by LeBron. Mm-hmm. And then it became the Curry's Warriors teams for a couple of years. And now we're in this no man's land in the league where I'm not sure who do you measure yourself against? I guess LeBron?
Yeah.
But Kobe was that guy for a long time, and that was what he really wanted too. He wanted that for years. He wanted to be that guy that everybody pointed to.
I mean, then that's what makes the Pau Gasol championships in some ways maybe not more impressive than the three-peat, but it's certainly a testament to his drive to recreate a team after Shaq.
The second title he won with Gasol is a really impressive title because he's pretty banged up at that point. And they both of those years he was just playing a ton of minutes, and also he played the 2008 Olympics and 3 straight finals, all that stuff, and was also at a point in his career where, like, you think about Dwayne Wade, who, if you match up Wade versus Kobe had the more titles because he was with Shaq, but the first 8 years of their career, pretty similar. If you throw out the first 2 Kobe post high school years. And then Kobe was able to just maintain a prime for another 5 years.
Well, because he had Wade did this too, but he was able to create a completely new image of himself.
But Wade couldn't totally do it though.
Yeah, it was hard for him to turn into
Wade peaked 11, 12, probably 2011 was his last year where he was like a top 3, top 4 guy. Uh-huh. And then he started because that's what happens when you've been in the NBA for 10 years. Kobe reinvents himself 08, 09, 10, 11, even 12, and has this whole second act. Mm-hmm. And that's what, when I was doing my book and trying to figure out this stuff, that's what separates him historically. And that's why he's a top 10 player ever, because of that second wave of his prime.
It's like, I don't know that maybe we will, but if the Warriors couldn't do a three-peat, I don't know if we'll ever see another team do it.
Yeah.
Which makes that Lakers three-peat so significant. It's funny, you were saying in the beginning about how Kobe kind of like his playing career in the NBA is pretty much also tracks alongside the evolution of the internet and the emergence of the internet being the primary way we communicate and consume information. But those Lakers teams to me still have that feels like a different sport. It feels like a different time. You know what I mean? Like those Lakers teams felt like
with Kobe and
felt that felt like the way kids probably talk about the 1927 Yankees. Or
right.
You know what I mean? Like I remember the "we're gonna cut your heart out" thing in the 2001 finals, and just be like, he means it. He's gonna do it. Like he's told a Sixers fan, "We're gonna cut your heart out." And they booed him at the All-Star game in Philly years later. Yeah. They hadn't forgiven him, and it was like that's what that was what the kind of guy he was. He would tell his hometown fans, "I am going to cut your heart out." Like that's the way he saw the game, is it was a zero-sum game.
I remember 2008 finals, Celtics win that finals. Kobe's team, Bynum was hurt. Vlad Radmanovic, they were like a guy short, and the Celtics were the best team that year. And they win game 1. It's the Paul Pierce wheelchair game. And then game 2, the Celtics are controlling the whole game. And I'm doing this off the top of my head. I'm sorry, but I think we're up I say we like I'm on the team. I think we're up 15, 17 points. I'm at the game. And there's probably
Is Boston or LA?
This is in Boston. Probably 5-6 minutes left. And Kobe just locks in and just basically takes on our entire team. And I don't remember what the stats were, but I just remember the feeling. I think I wrote a piece about it too. The truly, truly great players, the feeling of being in the building and like the helplessness that sets in where you're like, oh my God, this guy's doing whatever we want. We cannot stop him. That's why I think over everything else, was so revered as a basketball player, because so few guys could get to that specific point. Even LeBron, it took LeBron forever, really till the 2012 Boston Game 6 to get to a point like that where he's like, I'm going to just rip everybody's heart out. I don't care that I'm on the road. And so when I think of him as a basketball player, like weirdly, that's the game I would remember first. Then the 81 point game, that was so weird. I watched it with my dad. That was surreal. Yeah. It was like his teammates. He was like a tennis player almost. He had no teammates. He's just like, I'm just doing this.
You remember the good with the bad. I remember him. I remember the not passing game against Phoenix, right?
Right.
Or no, the not shooting game against Phoenix.
Game 7,
like,
yeah,
I'm not shooting. So what the
He's like, here's how bad my teammates are. Watch this. Watch what happens when I let them, because he knew he was out.
Not on like a Wednesday night. It was like this was serious. This was serious basketball. This is playoffs.
Yeah,
you know?
he had some of the more petulant moments we had. I think the fact that he was able to have that post prime, second prime, and now LeBron's able to do it too. And he just wouldn't allow anything.
But
less.
you have to like I kind of like. There's no point in comparing the two because it's apples to oranges, but LeBron has managed to find a second and somewhat third, maybe you can even call it a third prime, but he's managed to find this through movement, through like kind of never getting too inert in one place. If the roster isn't working out, you can always engineer something. And Kobe, obviously, like there was trade demands in Kobe's career. There was failed super teams in Kobe's career. There were breakups in Kobe's career. There were a lot of scandals, but he was a Laker for life. You know, I mean, he did that all on one team, which is kind of incomprehensible now.
And really got a full kick out of it too. I think he pretty early on wanted to go down as the greatest Laker ever. Mm-hmm. Whether that happened is a really good argument. I still think Magic was slightly better, but Kobe's career was longer. Kareem was the best Laker ever, but wasn't on the Lakers for the first half of his career, basically. Right. So there's no right answer. Basically depends on what you want. But I think Kobe probably went down as the most memorable Laker ever. Like the beginning, middle, end of his career and how long it was and how many generations it crossed. And you think all the people that are so sad today and the age ranges of it. And, you know, you have 12-year-olds who liked him just because of YouTube videos and they didn't even see him play.
Yeah.
They follow him on Instagram and they're just kind of into him and they weren't even there.
It kind of feels bigger than basketball. I mean, it feels more like Prince, you know?
Yeah.
It feels, and kind of, you think about the people, I know that this is a completely useless metric, but there is something weird about when somebody passes into the one name category.
Yeah.
Prince, Bowie, Kobe.
And Kobe, that happened right away.
Yeah. And this doesn't feel like something people are going to get over anytime soon. I'm kind of.
Well, I said at the top that it was the saddest NBA day ever, which is true. It's in the running for saddest sports days ever. Like even like before we popped on as Sports Center, they had Stephen A on, and he just looked like
Rachel looked like
he'd been hit by a train. And like this guy was in a lot of people's lives, and
he was around too. Like you would see, like Kobe was at Staples. There were a lot of events in Los Angeles that he participated in. He was a pretty big ambassador for the game. Probably would have been an all-star in Chicago. Like I don't know for sure, but like he was very present. It seemed like he was a big fixture in the league right now. What do you think is gonna like? Are they they're playing the Raptors? The Raptors are playing. I think the Spurs are playing right now.
Well, I think so. We're doing this mid-afternoon on a Sunday. I mean, there's never really been a sports death like this.
They're in uncharted territory.
Yeah, I almost don't know how it's going to play out, but I could see the Staples Center becoming
a shrine.
This play. But beyond a shrine, I don't even really know what to expect. And I don't know what to expect with these next few days.
Lakers is Tuesday.
Right.
Or it's supposed to be. I don't know if they're going to play that game.
I don't know what to expect in general with all this stuff. And then you think, you know, I've been working on this book of basketball pod where we've been going backwards and really diving in through the stuff of the century. We haven't done a Kobe episode yet, but he's been in these different things. The guy was in an unbelievable amount of just basketball history, really since 2000. He was in I think he was in 7 finals. He went against every relevant guy in the last 25 years and had a bunch of different iconic moments, and his name kept popping up after he finished playing. And now all that stuff is a completely different filter, you know? And this happened with Magic too. And Magic didn't die in 91, but part of what was so horrible about that day and finding out that he had HIV was it just was a death sentence in 1991. You're just like, oh, he's going to be dead in a year. And it changed the way you remembered those Laker things. And fortunately for us, Magic stuck around and is still healthy all these years later. It didn't have that shadow when you watch those old games. You feel kind of weird and I don't know how that part plays out.
Yeah, I don't know what it's going to be like to watch Kobe mixtapes now. I saw a couple of them like kind of on the front page of YouTube because they're obviously getting smashed right now. People are watching a lot of stuff, and I don't know what it's going to be like to go revisit those games because so much of those games, they weren't. The thing that was kind of cool about him was that they weren't museum pieces. They were really weird.
Yeah, they're gunslinger games.
He was a gunner, and he would trash talk people, and he would bully people, and he would.
But that the irony, one of the most memorable Kobe games was 6 for 24.
Yeah,
and he stinks for 3 quarters and almost shoots them out of it. And then in the 4th quarter, he rights the ship and makes there's a play. I just recently watched that game. They're up 3. Somebody misses. The ball gets bounced out. Kobe gets the rebound. He's at the foul line. He's like exhausted. There's probably 40 seconds left. And he's just like, I'm going to the basket. I am going into this sea of bodies as hard as I can. I might get decapitated. I don't care. I'm getting a foul.
Back when guys still
and he goes in that game. That's a great game to rewatch because it's really old school. The basketball is different now. That game is all about the 6 feet around the rim and the paint and just this battle. It's like football. And Kobe just goes flying in there like a battering ram. Unclear whether it was a charge or a foul. Gets the foul because he's Kobe. It was the right move. It was smart. But he goes flying into Rasheed Wallace like a locomotive.
Yeah.
And, I just, to me, that's the basketball stuff I remember with him. He was a badass.
Yeah.
And a really good all-around player and a reasonable facsimile of Jordan. I don't think he was as good as Jordan, but
he's as close as we're going to get probably.
Yeah. The last thing, and then we'll go because I don't want to keep this going too long because it's still pretty fresh, but I really feel bad for the Laker fans. Sports, it's games, it's stupid. We look at this all the time and wonder why we give a shit and why we're watching these random games in January. You're watching Philly, Atlanta. There's 90 better things you could do, but it's something fundamentally about you just love basketball. You just want to watch these games, and day in, day out, these people are in your life. And, I think for the Laker fans, he's the most popular Laker. Him versus Magic, I don't know. But he's definitely up there. And, they're just never going to be the same. I don't even think, like, for Boston athletes, I guess Brady, but for us, the Celtic, probably Larry Bird, but, Bird we had for 11 years and then he moved to Indiana, and it wasn't like the Kobe thing. Kobe played 2 decades. He stayed in LA.
Yeah.
He goes to the games. It was I always thought he was going to be the guy that replaced Nicholson in the seats.
I mean, he was on his way. On his way.
I don't really know if, just as a Boston fan, I don't know if we had an athlete quite like that was so universally belonged to everybody.
I'm sure every city has something like that, whether it's Roberto Clemente or Jerome Brown or, you know what I mean? Like everybody's got somebody that they've lost that you feel like the sports landscape of your city was never the same after that, maybe. But this is one where it feels like the sports landscape of every city won't be the same after this.
I loved rooting against him. I respected the hell out of him. Had good interactions with him. Thought he was interesting to talk to, and a really curious guy. And I thought, I think maybe that's something that a lot of people didn't realize. He was genuinely interested in a lot of things, and this day sucks.
Yeah, he'll be missed.
Thanks for listening. We'll be back with some more podcasts later in the week. We just wanted to get this one up in the books. Sorry to all Laker fans out there. Condolences to the Bryant family and the extended family and everybody that loved him. And we'll be back later in the week.